Hello and welcome to Verbling. I'm teacher Oakley, and once again at this hour we will be continuing our business English series. Today a little bit of a review class, more information, doing a few different things, looking at presentations. We looked at presentations a couple weeks ago, I think. Anyway, we'll be talking about presentations some more, as well as doing some related work with organizing actual speech and using transitionals. Some specific transitionals we'll be looking at today, as well as usual, lots of conversation about the topic. Again, today's topic, presenting material. Okay, hello Mustafa, how are you?
I'm doing well, teacher. Thank you for asking. Good to see you today.
Great. Great to see you too. I'm mildly nervous today because as I was having my lunch break, half the sky is blue and sunny and half the sky is black. Like tornado weather, like scary. I don't know which way the weather's gonna fly today, but it's a little frightening. And the wind is definitely very gusty right now. So a little nervous, but anyway, hopefully nothing will happen. I hope.
Hopefully. I
hope.
Cross fingers for you. Cross fingers for you.
Okay. Thank you. Also, Matthew has joined us. Hello, Matthew. Welcome.
Hey, teacher Oakley.
Hi. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing okay so far. Okay. All right. We're going to talk some more about presentations today. So we're going to kind of jump right in. I'm going to share some material and we're going to talk about it.
No.
Let me first welcome Herman. Hello.
Yeah. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Whatever. Okay. Welcome to the class.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna start off sharing a little information here. We're gonna talk about some good advice for people giving a short business presentation. Should you or shouldn't you? Okay, Herman, I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to go back to Mustafa. Start with you.
Okay.
All right, Mustafa, which of the following things do you think are good pieces of advice for people, which are not, and which can you elaborate on? We'll go one by one. We'll look at these bullet points, take turns. So first bullet point here, Mustafa. Is this bad advice or good advice? Go ahead. Sorry.
Avoid using PowerPoint or other visual aids as they are distracting. What's the meaning of visual aids exactly? Can you elaborate, teacher?
Sure. Well, a PowerPoint itself is a visual aid. It's something you look at. But also, for example, if I'm giving a presentation on building a factory, I might have a model of the factory, okay, constructed for you to look around at. If I have a new product I'm trying to introduce, or the concept of a new product, maybe I have one in my hand that I can pass around the table and you can look at. Okay, so PowerPoints, maybe a slideshow, all of those things.
You know what, like using PowerPoint is essential in doing a presentation. Actually, I don't think I have seen like a presentation without PowerPoint to outline some important, maybe to do some important like topic, or outline some important topic. You know what, like some title, some big title, and then you can like elaborate or explain for the audience or about your model. But the outline usually on the, maybe on the wall, like presentation, the presentation is a PowerPoint. So I think this is a good No, not a good advice to avoid using PowerPoint.
Yeah, it's terrible advice. Right, I agree. Or even having a whiteboard that you can use to draw on and whatever, make points on. Even at the minimum, a whiteboard to work with. Yeah, okay, terrible advice. I agree. I also I can't really remember any presentations that did not involve some kind of visual aid, one sort or another. Yeah, right.
Yes.
So some of these bullet points will be very good points, and some of them will be very bad. So, all right, Matthew, next bullet point.
It's all right to give your presentation sitting down. Oh yeah, it's all right. It depends to whom you give that presentation. If you give like to one person, like maybe decision maker, it's all right to sit down near him or her and to make that presentation. Do you make or do you do that presentation?
Okay, interesting here. Yeah, this came up in a class yesterday. Anyway, it's interesting here because it's not the normal. Usually, make means to create something. Normal, make and do. If I'm the teacher and I make a test, that means I create the test for my students, and the students do the test or take the test, right? But strangely, with presentations, it's kind of the opposite. Okay, I make a presentation to a group, but when I'm preparing it at my workstation, getting ready, I'm doing a presentation. Don't bother me. You can, of course, say I'm creating. So it's a little interchangeable. When you're actually presenting, though, we say make. I'm making a presentation to the boss this afternoon. It's a little odd. It's different than the normal use of make and do.
Okay. So if you are making a presentation, if you make a presentation in front only to one person or two, it's okay to sit down. It's okay to give your presentation sitting down. But if there are like more than 3, 4 people, no.
Yeah, as a general rule, I think I would agree with your assessment. In general, I think that's probably right. A one-on-one meeting, it would be a little strange to be standing up, for example. Yeah, right?
Like you are there, like you are the boss there.
Yeah, it's a little odd. You know, you don't go to a job interview and then stand up as you're being interviewed. Okay. For example. All right. Yeah, I agree. That's a pretty good assessment. I have nothing to add there. Herman, how about the third bullet?
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
What do you mean by assessment? You said
I think
that's assessment.
That's a good assessment of.
Yeah. What's assessment?
To assess something. The verb is assess. To assess is to judge it. All right. So I think you assessed that bullet point correctly. In a few cases it's correct. In most cases it's not. But with one, maybe two people, it's probably okay. Okay. Herman, third bullet point.
Yeah. Make eye contact with your audience.
Good advice or bad advice?
Is a good advice.
Okay. It's good advice. Herman, there's no such thing as a good advice in English, and there's no such thing as advices. Advice is always uncountable in English. So you can say it's a piece of good advice. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Do you know why? Why? Why is it a good idea to make eye contact with your audience?
Yeah, just because if you don't make eye contact with your audience, you will know if they understand what you're talking about. You know, for you to be able to deliver a message, you must make sure that like they're understanding everything you're doing. So without eye contact, there's no way you will know. There's no way you will know if they understand you or not.
Okay, good point. All right, there you go. And right, if you don't look at the people, you won't know if they're sitting there with a look of complete shock and disbelief. Sure. And also it helps draw people in, make them more interested. I don't know where or when. I remember some good advice. I don't even remember exactly the timing, but it was something like look forward for, and again, I'm just making this up. I can't remember exactly, but look forward, people directly in front of you for 20 seconds. Look to people at your left for 10 seconds. Go back to forwards for 20 seconds. Go to the right for 10 seconds as you're speaking. So don't just make eye contact with one person through the whole thing. That's another mistake that people make. They just stare at the boss or the decision maker the entire time. They close everyone else out and they just look at the boss. That's a common mistake, actually. You need to look at everybody.
Sorry, teacher.
Go ahead.
Can I? Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? Like, and sometimes or some people. For me, I'll talk personally. Like, gave me an advice that if you were like nervous to look at people or the audience in front of you, you can't choose one point at the background of them and start looking at that point. Like maybe they were like two row on the right and on the left. You have maybe to select point at the background of them and at the wall and start looking at that point. That way you are not looking directly to their eyes, but you pretend you are looking at them by looking at that point. So this is like a method, so you can release some kind of stress if you were like nervous looking at the people and something like that.
Right. Yeah, I've heard this. I think that is effective. Where you have like you're speaking to an audience, for example. I think that's very useful advice. Because when you look over their heads, as you said, toward the back, you're holding your head up. It looks like you're looking at them, as opposed. Don't pick a point in front of them, because then it doesn't look like you're looking at them. It looks like you're looking down at something on the floor. So yeah, I've heard that advice before. I think it's very useful for a larger audience. For a smaller presentation where it's like 6 people around a table, I don't know if it would be so effective. You kind of have to look at the people. I think they would notice, because you're close to them. You're only 2 meters away, like that. Yeah, a larger group, I think that's useful advice. Then there's the other silly advice you've probably all heard about. If you're nervous, imagine everyone in the audience is in their underwear. I personally have never been able to pull that one off. I don't know how people do that. For me, anyway, that's completely useless advice, but I don't know. Maybe for you guys, I'm not sure. I've heard it so many times, but I'm not sure if it's really good advice or not. Okay. Mustafa, how about the next bullet point?
Okay, make 2 or 3 important points and repeat them.
What?
It depends on your subject of presentation. It depends on your subject. I think you have in presentation you have to outline some important point. This is something you cannot avoid, inevitable. Okay, but maybe you have to add some explanation or some detail each time. Otherwise, it would become like boring for the audience if you start repeating again and again the same point. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is my idea about it. Yeah.
I want to give you a speech about how smart dogs are. Dogs are smart. Dogs are really intelligent. Dogs have a great degree of intelligence. I want to tell you, I want to express the point to you very clearly that dogs are smarter than cats. I'm just going to say again, dogs, smart. Cats, stupid. Okay. In conclusion, I just wanted to say that dogs are really smart. You would probably shoot me if I did that. Okay. Mustafa, pronunciation inevitable. It is inevitable.
Inevitable.
There you go. I believe that's the word you used.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. In any case, yeah, my answer to this question is yes and no, much like your answer. Okay, you're going to at the beginning say I'm going to make several points. I'm going to talk about, maybe you generally say what you're going to talk about or the points you're going to make. As you bring up a point, you give examples. Okay, and then you move on to your next point, but you don't just repeat the point. In conclusion, you may wrap up or finish by quickly outlining your points. So yeah, you're repeating your points, but not like over and over again.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's the idea. Okay. Matthew, next bullet point.
Rehearse your presentation in advance. Like repeat.
Rehearse. Yeah, practice.
Rehearse. Okay. So well, that's an awesome advice. Just because if you're not professional in this field, if you're not professional presenter, I think you've got to you should practice a little bit just to see, like, to have a general idea how will go the presentation, like next day or next hour. But if you're a professional like presenter, like if, for example, if you worked like for 1 or 2 years only presenting something and all kind of things you presented, like not only in one area but in many areas, like you worked, I think you don't need that. You may do that off the top of your head, like all the presentation.
Well, okay. I can tell you, when I used to work in a brick and mortar physical school, occasionally the boneheads in the office would tell me, "Oh, okay, oh, you have a free hour, next period. Oh, I would like you to teach a class, whatever, in whatever, geography, English vocabulary, in 5 minutes." And I will tell you, yeah, I can wing it. All right, wing it. That's an expression. You're just going to wing it. In other words, no rehearsal, no practice. Make it up as you go along. Yeah, Matthew, I could wing it if I had to, but it wasn't very comfortable. Not at all. Very uncomfortable. Wing it. Wing, like a bird's wing, Herman. Herman, you may want to scroll to the left of your screen. There's a little V. That's the Verbling chat box. You will see that as we conduct the class, we're making some commentary, sorry, mispronunciation, commentary in the Verbling chat box. Right now, you're commenting in the Hangouts chat box. Okay, anyway. Sorry, Herman?
Did you say by the left-hand side?
Left-hand side, if you scroll your mouse over there, a little pop-out sidebar will come out.
The chat, right?
Yeah, there's a V. If you scroll on, yeah, the letter V, a gold V on a blue background. If you click on that, the Verbling chat box comes up. You'll notice that I wrote wing it as I was saying it. And I will write vocabulary I'm just introducing over there. Okay, yeah, even though I taught, whatever, 7, 8 classes every day for years, it's still very uncomfortable. I still would like to prepare and at least have an outline of what I'm doing. That's for sure. But I agree, Matthew, it is definitely important to rehearse. And one thing that people forget about rehearsing is that they forget not only rehearsing what you're going to say and your timing, which is very important, understanding your timing, good reason to rehearse, but also before your presentation starts, you should check your computer, your PowerPoint, make sure your visual aids are on, are working. Everything's booted up and ready to go. Everything, because it's very embarrassing when you start a presentation and then you have a technical problem. Just a minute. Oh, wait. Oh, this will just take me a couple of minutes to fix this. That kind of stuff also not necessarily rehearsed, but needs to be prepared before you start a presentation, because that's really embarrassing. Makes you nervous to start out with, and then you're nervous even giving your presentation because you started late. It's really horrible. It's a nightmare. Yeah. Anyway, that's another aspect of it. English, just English language, the word rehearse. Okay, things like sports, obviously, you practice basketball. You practice learning a physical skill, for example. You rehearse things that have to do with the arts. You rehearse acting or singing, or a band rehearses their song before they play in a nightclub or on a stage. You rehearse speeches and presentations. Just so you know, a little difference between rehearse and practice there. Okay, moving on. Herman, next bullet point. Speak quickly.
Speak with as much as possible in the time.
Good advice? Terrible advice?
Good advice. Like you should try to speak quickly, just for the fact and make some point. You should just be talking without making some point. So because some people they really want to hear your point, and if you just talking, so they will understand what you're talking about. So that's why, as our as an advice to short business people, so you have to like speak quickly for them to understand exact as in the exact of what you're talking about.
Well, Herman, I kind of agree with part of what you said, but I disagree strongly with the rest of it. And I want to relate this to English speaking as well, because it very much relates to speaking English. Okay, number one, yes, you want people to understand you, and you want it to be clear. So I would agree with that part of what you were saying. You should be very efficient, concise, don't talk in circles. Don't say useless, distracting things. Stay on topic, stay focused. Try to keep it clear and concise. I agree with that. Speaking quickly actually can take away from that. And relating it to English, Herman and everybody else who's learning English, please listen to me. I'm not kidding. I don't know why, but many language learners, I don't know, especially in English, well, English is what I know about. They believe that if they speak quickly, it will make them easier to understand. Couldn't be more wrong. They think that if speaking quickly eliminates any slight pronunciation or accent problems. You couldn't be more wrong. It actually exacerbates them. It makes them worse. Actually, if you slow down and speak at a medium to actually slightly slower pace, it really helps to eliminate accent problems or pronunciation problems. They go away, and it will really help you to be clearer, actually. It's a falsehood that speaking faster makes it more understandable. And when I give a presentation, Herman, honestly, I attempt to slow down my speech more than I normally would speak. My normal conversational speed of talking, I try to slow it down slightly. In reality, I know, because I'm nervous, I'm full of adrenaline, my heart's pounding faster, my blood pressure's up, my heart rate is up. Actually, although it seems to me I'm speaking slower, I'm probably speaking at a very normal rate of speech, which is actually what you want. So trying to say, oh, I'm going to cram in 20 minutes of information into a 10-minute presentation, it's really not a good policy. Actually, just stick to a few basic points. Actually, the whole idea of trying to give somebody 20 pieces of information in a presentation is not going to work. They're only going to remember 3 or 4. So give 3 or 4 pieces of information.
Okay.
Yeah.
But why, for example, I've listened like some presentation of American speakers, like some motivational, like, or some, you know, and they speak quite quickly. They don't like, okay, let me tell you something. They kind of, you know, very quickly. Why do they do that?
Okay. I'll tell you why. The whole adrenaline thing. If I'm excited when I'm speaking, then you'll be excited. They are motivational speakers. Their entire job is to get you excited. Actually, you know how, Matthew, you go into an office and if everybody's depressed, or one person's depressed, everyone starts getting depressed, or one person's angry, pretty soon it's like contagious. It spreads through the whole office. That's why motivational speakers speak the way they do. And I think if you're really pay attention, Matthew, you'll notice that they are experts at timing. They'll use dramatic pauses.
Yeah.
And then speak very quickly. And also use bursts of intonation like that.
Yeah, they do.
Like, all right, the pause is to get you calm, and then like a horror movie where everything's calm and they open the door and suddenly there's an axe. Like that, you know. Horror movies do the same thing. They're using the timing to get you excited and motivated. So yeah, they're experts at that. They use the intonation, the timing to its best advantage. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I know what you're talking about, and I agree. They tend to speak with pauses and timing and then quick outbursts, which will be quick speech. I agree, in order to energize their audience. Absolutely. That's something that takes years to master, really.
But actually you speak kind of with intonation when you speak, like.
Yeah, I've had years.
Yeah, I mean, you stress the words, like you make pauses, so your speech is not like monotone.
No. Well, okay, here's another factor, and again, it relates directly to speaking English, not even so much business and presentations, but in the English language, the spoken language, is not timed by syllables the way many languages are. So each vowel sound, they're not equally timed apart, because the English language is, we're stressing the important words, or to be more specific, the important or primary syllables or vowel sounds in the important words. And the unimportant words, or function words, we say them very fast. So when you listen to English, it seems that we're going really fast and then slow down and then fast and slow down. That's the rhythm of English. That's the timing. It's a stress-timed language, not a syllable-timed language. So that's part of it as well. It's definitely part of it as well. And yes, when I talk about not speaking quickly, Matthew definitely has a point. Speaking everything quickly would be very, very disconcerting to a listener. But speaking quickly, then slowly, more importantly, speaking with stresses in the important words, the key words, your important reasons or points of your presentation. Really using higher pitch, longer vowel sounds to make them stand out from all the other words in your sentence. Now, it may sound like I'm speaking quicker, but I'm slowing down on certain parts so that they really stand out to you, the listener. Like that. I tried to do it just now. Anyway, it's an art. Really, it is. Generally speaking, though, speaking everything quickly to try to cram in information, I would advise against that. So, okay, there's a lot to it, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I add a point?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah. For example, like Matthew talked about motivational speaker. By the way, like I have mentioned before in one of your classes, like about NLP and NLP system. So this part of system, like divide one chapter of it of that book I read, divide the people, like system of people, like each one of us it has to be one of these three systems. Like it would be visual, presenting visual person, visual
Okay.
presenting person, or auditory person, or person sensory person, like he's feeling, focusing on feeling or something like that. What my point is, each one of those people different in the speed of when they are talking. Like for example, for me, I have a visual presenting system. I talk very fast. Okay, you can see other person who's talking very slowly, like he's from the feelings. The last one, the sensory or feeling system has sensory presenting system. Okay, or you can see other person who is focusing on auditory, who has auditory presenting system, who is talking in the middle way. He's not talking too fast and he's not talking too slow. He's talking in the middle way. So also you can see the difference between people. Like sometimes you see person talk too fast and sometimes you see person talk too slow. So also this is a dependable point or factor.
It is. It is. And Mustafa, there is the opposite side of that coin. All right? Your audience, and some people learn in different ways. Some people may retain the information you're trying to express visually, which is why you need those visual aids. Some people may retain it auditorially. They're really listening to what you say, and they don't want to miss a point. Others more viscerally, or as you say, emotionally, absolutely, which is why you use the timing and the quick bursts and what I was talking about, really using forceful intonation to make points.
Yeah. I agree with you. I agree with you.
Right. So there you go. So when you're presenting, you have to take into account that your audience, one guy's just watching the visual stuff and not really paying attention to what you're saying. Another guy's not even looking at the visual stuff. All he's doing is listening to what you're saying. And another guy's just getting the general feeling. It's true. You're absolutely right. Your points you make, but it goes both ways.
That's why you have to. Yeah, that's why you have to be an expert person. So as you said, they are experts about intonation, about stress word, about something. All of this point. So they make sure that every person, maybe in the room, can understand at least the important points of the presentation.
Exactly, and that is the point. You don't need everyone to get every last little detail in a presentation. You want them to get the general idea and the most important points. That's exactly right. And if you accomplish that, then you've done a great job. in your presentation. And one more thing, presentations, job interviews, these kinds of skills, they take practice. They do. And the more you do them, the better you are, the more confident you are, and you get better. This is like any other skill. You get better at it, for sure. Okay. Well, that got quite exciting. Okay. One more point here, and then we're going to move on. Well, the last one. All right. Well, Mustafa, start with a joke. What do you think?
Start with a joke. I heard to start with a story, and this would be more helpful for the audience to attract them, or maybe give them a real example. So this is really helpful. I believe in this. Like you have to start with a story, maybe about your life, about something happened to you in the past. So give them like a real example, so they can easily interact with you about your presentation ahead that you will do ahead. So I start with a story is much better than start with a joke, I guess. But the story, sometimes the story it has to, maybe it contains some kind of joke or something like that. I don't I'm not with the with the people who they are saying make a joke of yourself. No, not like this, but make maybe a story, maybe it's contain a little bit fun, or maybe something funny, or something happy was happening, something like
Okay. Related to English. This is a business English class. You're telling more specifically than a story. A story is fine, but more specifically, an anecdote. Okay. An anecdote is a short story that you tell with a point. There's a point to telling it. It's often amusing. Sometimes it's shocking or sad, but it's definitely going to grab your attention. And you do that, and I agree with what you said, Mustafa. You do that so that it can help the people either, or maybe both, relate to you, the speaker, or relate to the material you're about to present in some way. Okay? You want them to relate to it somehow, to kind of be able to envision themselves in that situation, or dealing with the problem you're about to discuss, or whatever, like that. Yeah. Start with a joke is fine if you're good at telling jokes. To be blunt, if you suck at telling jokes, then don't tell a joke. Don't force yourself to tell a joke if you're really bad at telling jokes. It's the worst thing you can do, really. Great, if you're really good at telling jokes, then fine, go for it. But I don't think it's necessary. Okay, I'm going to skip forward here. Okay, let's look at this speaker's organization of their presentation, and then we'll talk about some of the actual language. Okay, what might be missing? What might be... we'll talk about these things. Is it right? Is it wrong? We'll talk about it as we go. Matthew, the speaker's, maybe he's made himself some notes about how he's going to do his presentation. All right. So, number one, makes a brief introduction. Okay. You okay with that? Anything missing?
Well, he presents himself. Maybe he should present himself.
Yeah. Introduce himself.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
Okay. I would add one thing. I think it's very important that you should thank everyone. I think it's the right thing to do. It can never be wrong. And sometimes people like your boss really appreciate it. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. Mr. Matthews, the CEO of the company, thank you so much for joining me for the presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Okay, like that, whatever. For example, it can never be a bad thing to thank people in your introduction. Okay, well, we already talked about makes a joke, tells a story, whatever. So I'm going to skip that one. Herman, number 3. Number 3. All right. Herman, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Number 3. Go ahead and
Say
read it. Yeah.
how many points is going to make.
Okay.
Like the person should list out how many points is going to make.
Well, kind of. Well, okay. Sorry, was that a question?
It wasn't a question, I'm just saying.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat it then? I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I said the person should list out all the question is going to make, he or she is going to make.
Okay. Okay. Well, a brief outline of the material you're going to present might be a better way to say this, right? I mean,
Okay.
really brief. Okay. Whatever. It may be just saying how many points you're going to make. I am going to talk about 3 reasons we need to build a new factory. Good enough.
Yeah.
Or if your presentation has to do with different factors, you're giving a, I don't know, sales forecast. I'll talk briefly about last quarter's earnings. I'll take a look at where we are now, and then I will present to you our forecast for the next quarter. Done! That's it. Like that. So I don't know if how many points is very accurate here. I would say something more like a brief outline of what you're going to do. Say what you're going to do. I strongly believe that you should do this. I think this is very important. It helps people. It helps people predict where your information's coming, so information that's important to them they can listen for, and they can. One key to English listening, guys, is, you know, any of these standardized English tests, exams that you take, like IELTS or TOEFL or TOEIC or CAE or whatever. All textbooks and most teachers or instructors will tell you, be predictive. Try to predict what the information is coming, what it is. It will help you with your listening skills if you can kind of predict what the person's probably going to say, given the situation. And it's no different here. Native speakers of English, it helps us too. It's not just for language learners, it's for all people. Being able to, if you're able to kind of predict what someone's going to say, it actually helps your listening comprehension. So, as the speaker, if you make that easy, if you kind of, in advance, signal what you're about to say, makes it easier for your listeners to retain it. Absolutely. And, you know, that's a general listening tip for everyone, whether you're learning English or not, actually. Okay. Anyway, all right. Number 4, Mustafa.
Okay. Illustrates all his points with an example. Yeah. This depends on time of the presentation and the type of the presentation, of course. By the way, this is related to the last point. When you mention to the audience, this is our point, like this, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, for example. Then in this section, you have to give them detail about that point, and maybe I am with the idea of supporting them with example. But sometimes you don't have maybe a time or something like that. Maybe you have to mention to them, like, this is just the outline or something like that. And maybe some presentation they accept to get on a question after each maybe point or at the end of the presentation. So you can skip some point or go quickly through them, something like that. But I am with the idea of supporting your each point with an example. Is mandatory.
Yeah, I don't think it's mandatory. I mean, not for what I object to is all his points. I object to the use of that. That's an absolute word. Okay, words like all, every, never, always. These words are sometimes they're called absolutes. I kind of object to the absolute in this sentence. I don't think absolutely every single point you make needs an example. For example, you know. So I think we're agreeing. Basically, it's nice to be able to give examples for your points, but I don't think it's necessary for every point.
Yeah,
Right.
because maybe at the end of the day, just a presentation, and you don't have all the day to explain all what you have. So
Yeah.
maybe focusing on some point is better, much better. It's much better than
Okay.
doing all of it. Yeah.
Okay. You don't have all day. Okay.
Yeah.
Not all the day. Get rid of that the in the middle. You don't have all day.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Next one, Matthew. There's two of you. He's cloning himself.
No,
Okay. All
something
right.
happened.
All right. Anyway, just in time for the next point, number 5. Well, kind of already talked about this.
5 says which point he's making before making it. Well, not necessarily.
Well,
You can start whatever you want to start off.
okay. Well, personally, I do this, and I would do this, and I would recommend this. Again, the whole signaling to help your listeners retain information. Okay. So, all right, I'm going to give you the sales forecast. All right. The next point I want to make, I want to talk about where we are right now with our sales at this point, month to date, and then talk about some specifics, maybe, something like that. I don't know. I agree. English writing style, academic, or even business, academic writing style and business writing style are very similar. You start a paragraph, you introduce the material in the paragraph in the first sentence. And that would be, here is my point, here is my reason, here is my argument, whatever, is usually in the first sentence, and then you build on that. It's very normal. It's the same thing when you're giving a presentation, really. So,
Sorry, teacher. Can you give me one more example, if you can?
sure. Okay. Well, all right. All right, today I'm going to talk to you about how dogs are smarter than cats. Okay, the first point I want to make is that recently at Harvard University, they devised an IQ test for animals. And dogs did much better. No, okay, I messed that up. Sorry. I did that wrong. I'm giving you the detail before I'm giving the general answer. Let me start again. All right. The first point I want to make is that dogs have a higher IQ than cats. A recent study done at Harvard University using new technologies to test the IQ of dogs and cats found that other than pigs, which had the highest IQ, dogs were the second smartest animal in terms of intelligence quotient. Like that. That would be better. So saying the general thing, very short and sweet, by the way. My first point is that dogs have a higher IQ than cats. Then explain how I know that. And by the way, I just made up that information. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Okay, so a short, very crisp, clean expression of what you're going to talk about. I think it kind of helps the listener. It helps me anyway. Rather than launching into talking about testing at Harvard and what is he talking about? Okay. to sort of introduce it first. Okay, anyway, moving on. Okay, gives reasons for everything he says. Mustafa, what do you think of that one?
Okay. I translate myself. Gives reasons for everything he says. No, this is a recipe for failure.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah,
Recipe for failure, recipe for disaster.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Don't yeah, bog yourself down with crazy detail.
Yeah. Some kind of presentation they accept to have a question to get questions about what they say at the end of the presentation. So maybe you can then you can give a reason if someone asks you to elaborate something.
Right, and the thing that's not here, finish with a brief conclusion. Yeah, in most presentations, unless there's something to do with the who knows, the way that it's set up by somebody else, you should, like, there's no time or something like that, but normally you would give time for questions. Absolutely. Are there any questions? All right. Before we conclude, are there any questions? All right. Matthew, number 7, include statistics where appropriate. Well,
that's pretty straightforward.
Yes, it is. And that's basically what your PowerPoint's for. Your PowerPoint's got the statistics on it. So that's pretty much covered. It's pretty obvious. You need something to put on the visuals, and that's where statistics are going to come in. Bar charts and the like. Okay. Okay. Alternative signal words or phrases. I know I always say this, and I say it a lot, but using these kind of transitionals or signal words or signal phrases to introduce what you're saying. Okay. Let's see if we can quickly think of alternatives to these. Let's just take turns. Mustafa, number 1.
Okay.
What's an alternative?
Alternative single word or phrase for the following. The subject of my talk today is.
Okay. What's a different way to say that?
The point of my presentation today is.
Okay. That'll work.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. There are many ways to do it. The topic I would like to discuss today is. Okay. Fine. Matthew, how about number 2?
I'd like to start off by saying that
Okay.
you can start without to say this thing.
How? I mean, yeah, maybe, but how would you do that?
You're going straight to the point. What you want to say. You can omit this phrase. Like, I'd like to start off by saying that. You can just say what you want to say. That's all.
So you would walk up, you would stand up and say, "Dogs are smarter than cats." That's it?
No, you start with a kind of introduction, and it's not necessarily like you said. You can start like dogs. So okay, you're starting with point number 1, or no?
No, I'm just starting. You said you can just start. My whole presentation, I'm imagining, of course, I'm making this up, Matthew, of course. I'm going to prove to you and make points that dogs are smarter than cats.
Okay. Well, you can say that, for example, we'll talk about dogs and cats.
Okay, well, there you go. All right, well, that's like the first sentence. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, just trying to get an alternative. You know, for me, okay, number 2. First of all, I'd like to say blah, 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 maybe. rather than I'd like to start off by saying, I'd like to begin by thanking everyone for coming to the meeting. It's just a common phrase to help you get started. It's very normal. Maybe it's not absolutely necessary. You're right. There may be different strategies, but it can actually help you, the speaker, to already know how you're going to start. Oh, by the way, there's another piece of advice. Knowing exactly how you're going to start is actually a good idea. Memorizing every single word you say, not necessarily a good idea. Even worse idea, just read your slides from your PowerPoint. Terrible idea. Worst presentation I've ever seen in my life. I watched somebody do that. I just thought, you know, hey, email me the PowerPoint. You know, I can read it myself. Okay. All right. Anyway, alternate introductory phrases. Mustafa, number 3.
3. I'd like to make three main points. I'd like to highlight some important point or 3 main points or 3 important points.
Okay, that's good. Maybe rather than 3 specific numbers, some, use some or a few important points, some important points. Okay, whatever. Tons of alternatives, some crucial points. I'd like to talk about some crucial aspects to the idea of building another factory in the downtown area. Okay, fine. I'd like to outline 3 additional steps that we need to make to open a factory. Whatever. There's lots of alternatives. Okay, Matthew, number 4. The first one.
The first one is that, firstly, I'd like to talk about.
There you go. Firstly, okay. The first one is, first of all, okay. Number 1. Sometimes I've heard people give presentations where they do that. Number 1. And they really highlight it when they say it. Number 1. So that people, actually I kind of like the strategy. It worked for me as a listener. Number 1. The point that blah, 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 blah. And then they said number 2. And then for some reason that stuck in my mind as 1, 2, 3. Like I mentally pictured like bullet points or whatever, or like the numbers on the side of a list. I don't know. It affected me. Mustafa, number 5.
Did you need any treatment after that?
No, but you know what? I'm talking about. I'm totally serious about this too. But I'm talking about a presentation I watched like years ago, and I still remember, like 1, 2, 3, the points that were made. It really stuck in my mind. It really did. I don't know. Crazy. Maybe I'm just nuts. I don't know. Might be possible. I don't know. All right.
What was the presentation about?
What was it about? It was about training new sales agents. And okay. The first point was to be locked in, have somebody with them on the same line. These are customer service agents on the phone. First point, number 1, someone should be there holding their hand. And he had like a slide with people holding hands. Had nothing to do with training and business. But the visual was so strong, and he shouted, number 1. Somebody needs to be there holding their hand. For at least the first 3 days, there should be someone in tandem on the phone with them, listening to the call and critiquing and making notes. Something like that. I don't remember the detail, but I remember the visuals and the number 2.
and I imagine that there was like a projector, yeah, and a big screen.
Oh, yeah.
And number 1, there was like a red number 1 on all the screen.
Yeah. Exactly. There was.
Okay.
That's right. And then the visuals didn't have charts or numbers or even words. It just had somebody holding hands, two people holding hands. And then the next slide had, I don't know, something about the manager. Okay, the managing or the team manager needs to watch them at all times. And it had a picture of binoculars. And that's it. Weird, but there you go. Maybe I'm a visual learner. All right. Well, maybe that's good advice. Some advice that I need to take. Oh, there. That was the alarm. Time is up.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh,
Number
no.
one.
Number one. Sorry about that. Our time is up, but thank you a lot. Thank you so much, guys. See you again real soon. Maybe tomorrow, I hope.
Okay.